Hello everyone, my name is Teresa with Chapstick and Succulents, and in this video, I'm going to show you why you need to trim your succulents. This video is inspired by my friend Rachel, who sent me a photograph of her succulent that has gone too long and is asking me for some advice on how to take care of it. First of all, let me show you this colorful sedum that has been trimmed and now has so many new growths. When I first started the succulents, all I wanted to do was simply to make arrangements. So I collected different varieties to use for my projects and experimented different ways of displaying them. The more unique the project is, the more I'm inspired to do it because then I can show how versatile succulents are. The sizes and shapes of the succulents that I use vary depending on the project I'm working on. If I make miniature arrangements, I look for the small succulents that I can find in the garden. If the project is big, like this wall frame, then I would use larger plants. But if the container is tall, then I would use longer plants and some trailings as well. Because I make arrangements, I got introduced to different ways of propagating the succulents. At first, I used only rooted ones for my projects. But when I found out that cuttings can survive for days even without being planted in the soil, and that it is so easy to propagate from cuttings, every time I get a new variety, I would propagate them first. In order for the cuttings to stand in the soil, I need to remove the bottom leaves. And when the leaves that I collected started growing as well, I got hooked to leaf propagation. But this video is not about propagation from leaves or propagation from cuttings. I will be showing you what happens to the mother plant after they were trimmed and compare them to the plant that was just left to grow. But why would you trim your succulents? When they grow too long and heavy, they can fall off and look unsightly. Obviously, they would need some trimming. Another reason is when you have them in an arrangement. When they begin to outgrow the container, you don't really need to uproot them and replant them again. You can just simply trim the longer ones and you will be rewarded by new growth. And the container arrangement can be restored back close to its original look. You can also trim if you want them to look fuller like this. Or you can remove the dead leaves and dead branches so that new sprouts will grow. Of course, not all succulents can be trimmed like this. This kind of propagation works best for succulents that have stems or branches, because some can produce offsets that sprouts at the base of the mother plant. And of course, the way to propagate this one is different. I promised to show you the difference between the plant that was left to grow versus the one that was trimmed, and here it is. Here you can see that the one that was not trimmed continued to grow longer, whereas those that were trimmed become more fuller. Take a look at these Kalanchoe pink butterflies. This is actually one of my favorite succulents because this one really stands out in the garden. The pink plantlets on its leaves look like flowers at a distance, but when they drop on the ground, they cannot form into new babies because they lack chlorophyll. I left this one untrimmed, and as it matured, it grew longer and the leaves started to spread apart, losing all the pink plantlets. But even though there are hundreds of them that dropped on the ground, nothing really grew in there. On the other hand, I trimmed the one that I planted in my fairy garden, and look at the result. I even planted the top part that I beheaded and removed some dried flowers. To my surprise, I found a lot of new babies growing in there. And look at these fire sticks. These can grow taller and longer and more colorful in the sun. And when they get trimmed, they grow more fuller and more colorful young sprouts. Let's talk about when is the best time to trim them and why, and also I'm going to show you how to properly do it. The best time to trim them is during late winter or early spring because they're still dormant or they're not actively growing. There are a lot of advantages when you prune them at this time. Pruning them during cooler days reduces the amount of stress they experience, allowing them enough time to recover fast before their rapid growth spurts during spring. Another advantage is that when you prune them before the growing season, whatever food they store will be used to produce more sprouts instead of supplying the area that you removed. When you cut the plants, you are creating a wound just like doing surgery. That open wound is an invitation for insects, bacteria, and fungal spores to get inside the plants. Since most insects and diseases are not active during cold winter weather, the succulents can recover without stressing themselves to fight off potential problems. For places that do not experience winter, you can trim them anytime, as long as the weather is dry or the humidity is low. Obviously, you don't trim them during rainy season or when it just rained a night prior, because the moisture from the environment or water can drop on the wound and can make the plant susceptible to diseases and insects. When the humidity is low, the wound can also dry faster, and that's what you really want to happen. When you trim, you will need some equipment. You will need gloves, especially when you cut succulents with sticky whitish sap like this fire stick. Be very careful when handling these types of plants because the sap coming out from the branches can irritate your eyes and skin. To trim, you do not just pinch it with your nails or just turn and twist and break the branches. You need to create a nice clean cut, therefore you need to use the proper tool. You need to use sharp, clean pruning shears to make the job easier and prevent damage. To clean your pruning shears, you need to soak it in water with a teaspoon of bleach. A clean tool will ensure that the plants are not exposed to bacteria or pests. When you cut, make it at a 45-degree angle. By doing so, you're allowing the water to just run through it instead of sitting on top of the cut. Try to avoid over-trimming. It can lead to plant shock, resulting in some problems such as slow growth. Remember that every time you cut, you are creating a wound, so the fewer the cuts, the better. Try to avoid over-trimming. To remind yourself not to cut too far, apply the rule of thirds. Do not prune more than 1/3 of the size of your plant. Sometimes you have to make your own discretion too, especially when the plant has grown too long, then you might need to trim more. You can also train them to grow towards the direction you want by cutting just above the leaf that points to that direction. Because new growth tends to sprout near the cut end, so you look for the leaf for a node that is pointing to that direction that you want and cut just above that part or in between the next node like this one. I hope you learned a lot from this video today, and if you're interested to continue learning, please don't forget to subscribe. And today I have some good news. Our channel finally reached 10,000 subscribers. And as a way of saying thank you, we are giving away free ebooks. Just click on the link in the description below and collect your freebies. It's Succulents 101 with important tips you need to know about succulents, of course, plus the formula of the soil mixture that we use. I hope to see you in our next video. Bye!